Hi, everybody. Well, welcome to the Heart. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to our page. Well, we have a special guest today, and she will be talking about sharing with us what coming out of Muslim to Christianity. So let's give a warm welcome to our guest.
Bona McAllister.
All right.
All
So, Bona, what was it like being raised Muslim?
Being raised Muslim, growing up, I always used to say to my mom, why are we here? Why are we not American? Because growing up in my household, I didn't have a regular childhood where kids had play dates, where they could go to the park. I never had that type of childhood. And growing up from a very small age, my grandmother taught me how to pray. And she taught me all the prayers in Arabic, right? And Muslim people in our household, they pray 5 times a day, and the women are trained to be housewives. There's no other purpose. It's just the whole from being born to when you're about to get married. It's all about being a housewife, being a good cook, being a good cleaner, and they serve God in our home. Where my grandmother was wrapped from the top to the bottom of her feet. But to say all that, it was hard because I always wanted to do things. I wanted to go places, but I was never allowed to because in our culture, women were not meant to be anything. It was all about the men, and it kind of stifled my growth in so many things. I remember I wanted to be an actress. I did. I thought I was going to be the best movie actress, and they would say, "No, that's embarrassing. You cannot be an actress." And then I remember I wanted to write a movie script, a play. No, that's embarrassing because women don't do that, And all we were built was be housewives. There was no other purpose, and to say that, yeah, it was I felt always different. Also, we never celebrated Christmas either. And when Christmas time came around and I'd go to school and everybody had gifts and stuff, and that always used to make me feel sad because I wanted to know about Christmas. And then from a very small age, though, I was always so curious about the cross. And when we would pass churches, and I would always ask these questions, and they would say, Miligoyen. That's in Albanian, means shut your mouth. Mara means it's embarrassing. Don't ever talk about the cross, So it was, I always felt like, and like I said, I always felt like, Mom, why are we in America? We should just go back to another country and be with everybody that does what we do, So it was hard because I never had purpose growing up. The only purpose was get married, be a housewife, produce. And if I didn't get married, it was considered, again, Mara means in Albanian, embarrassment. So my whole life, I had this label put on me as I was embarrassment. I was an embarrassment. I was an embarrassment. If I didn't go to the mosque, then I was an embarrassment. If I didn't pray 5 times a day, I was an embarrassment. And it was tough.
Yeah.
Being a young girl in America, and there's so much opportunities and so many dreams, but all when from a small age, you're built to be a housewife.
Yeah, sounds like you that was very strict.
Very strict, yeah.
So when did you first started like moving away from that, and what was your first experience as something other than what you were raised to do?
Well, when I was about I think I was about 16 years old, I got a salon job. And I buried myself. I wanted to be a hairdresser because I love pretty things and I love to create. So I would go to school, and I started going straight from school to the salon, and I started as an assistant. But as I was going through this process, I started meeting a lot of different people, and I started also with work. I always said, if I could just work 12 hours, I don't have to be home. I don't have to do this. I don't have to do that. But it was more of an escapement for me. And I saw myself when I started that salon job, I started drifting away from religion. Also, I was always, by not feeling good enough, I always was like, okay, well, God's mad at me anyways, and I'm not covered, and I'm not going to the mosque. So I saw myself, I just buried myself into work, and I was like, I'm gonna be the best hairdresser, and I'm gonna move out of this house, and I'm gonna be free, you know. It was, but I noticed within that job, it was more of, I saw myself, and I started, like, I couldn't understand Muslim either in that way, because if it was supposed to be so beautiful, then why am I so lost? You know, because I, instead of seeking God, you know, and then I started moving away, and I just focused on work.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was just whatever I could. But anytime I went home, oh yeah, work was great, but still saying this is great too, because I didn't know what I wanted. Because if I would have, even when I went to beauty school, even that, it was like, no, you're not going to be nothing. You're meant to be a housewife. So I started veering away from religion in that process.
Yeah. So you were working, you were moving out of the strict life, and you were moving into something else. And you mentioned that you were meeting a lot of different people. And like you've always felt sort of lost, like you didn't know where you belonged.
Right.
So and then something happened, and addiction started. So when did the addiction start?
The addiction started, I was, again, when I first got that salon job, and I started a lot, my boss was a cocaine addict. No one knew he was a cocaine addict, you know what I mean? He was like a functioning drug addict. But that's how it started, because I didn't, again, so innocent, so young. I didn't even have sex till I was like 22 years old. You know what I mean? I was so pure and so young and so innocent, but so not unaware of the world, because I was so sheltered. So that's how it started. Like, and then it was like, do you want a bump? And then I was like, oh, this is so cool. And then I started escaping from what that was at the house. And what drugs did for me, it made me feel alive. It made me feel good. It made me at that moment. And even in that, then it started to escalate with the pills. And then I met this other hairdresser. That's how I got into heroin. He was like, do you know that you could shoot up a Roxy? I don't know. He goes, quicker. So all of this escapement led me into a group of people I shouldn't have been in. You know?
Yeah. So that had to have been, I know you were still living at home.
Still living at home.
And that had to have been like really tough, because now you're living a double life.
Double life, exactly.
Yeah.
And
What was that like?
That was the hardest thing ever, because again, I'll remember the word I said, embarrassment. So now I'm a girl that has a role that I'm supposed to get married within my culture and practice all this what I was brought up. But now Bona, being an Albanian Muslim girl, now is a drug addict, right? And I could never ever tell anybody. Like, nobody knew. Anybody that was Muslim, anybody that was Albanian, they didn't know. And I lived like that. But when it came time to it, anytime I would go home, there was a fear. There was such a fear, because, oh my God, if they find out who I am, I'm going to be in so much trouble, which I was in so much trouble after that. But yeah, it was the worst. It was the most loneliest place that I ever was, because in my culture, you can't ask for help. There's no talking and counseling and I love you. Like, if you got a headache, we don't got time for that. Take 2 Tylenol. You got to get to do what you got to do. That's being resilient. So now it's like, how do I go to my mom and tell her, your daughter is a cocaine addict and a heroin addict? How do I do that? So you know what I did best? I hid and I hid and I hid. And there would be some nights I wouldn't even go home, and I would lie and say I was working and doing hair all night. Like, you know, I was such a big liar. It was so sad, because I believed those lies within the process.
Yeah. So I know that just like anybody else that does drugs, it brings you to a point where you you're done. You know what I mean? So how's the transition like, moving from, because that's what the topic is, going from Muslim
Muslim
to Christianity.
Christianity.
So what was that transition like?
You know, when I first met Jesus, I kid you not, who is Jesus? And this, what I want to talk about religion real quick, I'll speak fast about it, but, Christianity is the only religion or whatever you want to call it, is the only one that seeks you. Every other religion does not go out and seek someone. So when Jesus found me, I was in a real broken place. I was in this hotel, in the dirtiest of the dirtiest, where no young girl should be. And I remembered in this process of when I was I wanted to die, and I prayed to God, and I said, God, if you're real, either take my life now or do something with me before who I was before I was with drugs. And that transition, and he came in and he loved me, and I can't even explain, I'm not a liar anymore, and I am so free in who I am. And that transition, I'm free as a person, as Bona. Bona wakes up today and she's not worried about what somebody thinks. Christianity, who is King Jesus? He's life. The transition was going through that. Before all that, it was hard trying to convince my family about this man, King Jesus. But you know what? I'll tell you something. I think with Muslim people, when it comes to Christianity, when Muslims pray 5 times a day, every day, to a God that they want to see, but then when this man Jesus touches a Muslim person's heart, we are so like, oh my God, and that's what the transition of I don't want to say Islam was all bad, because that discipline in prayer and that discipline in fasting and that discipline in still loving and doing and serving, God used it all for Christianity. Because I am the way I am is because of those things. But now that I have King Jesus, I'm unstoppable, because Jesus is unstoppable and he's the King of Kings. Amen. So the transition, thank God that he sought me, because I didn't find Jesus in a church. I didn't find Jesus in a house. I found Jesus Jesus found me in a junkie motel, and he saved my life.
Wow, that's awesome. I believe most people find Jesus at their lowest point, and I think that is in a really amazing place, because when we're full of ourselves, we don't need anything else. And I'm glad to know you, Bona, and I see your walk, and it's amazing. I know that you're married. How's the married life?
Oh, marriage is amazing. And my Dave McAllister, that was something funny too. Growing up, they always said, if you don't marry into your kind, no one's ever going to marry you. But God restored all of that. I have a marriage, I have a business, I have good friends. Marriage, even within that too, I think from my background growing up, helped me know how to treat a man. But God gave me a man that is loving and respectful, that makes me only want to serve him more. Amen. So it's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome, Bona. That I what the enemy meant for evil, God turns it around for his good. And his goodness leads us to repentance. And there's nothing like being loved in a world full of hate. And I believe love is the thing that turns our head and turns our gaze towards the one who is love. God is love.
God is love.
Right? So we thank you. We thank Bona for giving us a really candid picture of her, the short version of her life from being Muslim to Christianity. She's very much still a part of this ministry. She has been a part of this ministry, and we thank her. And don't forget to like and subscribe to this page. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Have a great day, guys.